Hello and welcome to day 4 of Pension Awareness Week 2021 and thank you for joining us today for our live at lunch session covering the 2015 Remedy. This is the second event we've run on the 2015 Remedy, so hopefully you didn't join on Tuesday because you probably get the same information as you did then. Just to introduce myself, my name is Andrew Jones and I am the Engagement Manager for Civil Service Pensions from Cabinet Office. Just to give a little bit of background on Live at Lunch, this is a series of pension awareness events that we run, which started last year actually during Pension Awareness Week, with the purpose and the sole purpose to provide you, the scheme member, with some specific information on a specific topic. As mentioned, it is around the 2015 Remedy, which is something that's going to impact many of us within the civil service, looking at like 80% of the civil service will be impacted by this. And what we want to do today is try to, one, obviously answer the questions that you have, but also dispel any myths that are out there as well. During today's session, there will be a couple of polls which I would personally appreciate your responses to, as it will help us understand where people are on their journey in understanding the 2015 Remedy. But the main chunk of today's session will be mainly broken down into two parts. The first part will be a video, probably about 4 to 5 minutes, which will provide you with an update on the 2015 Remedy and where we currently are. And then followed through to probably the event that I really enjoy, which is the question and answer session, to where we will try and go through any or many of the questions that you have raised. But don't worry, you do not have to listen to me for the whole of this. I do have 3 wonderful colleagues with me today who are all experts in the 2015 Remedy, which are Ian Corner, who is the Cabinet Office Head of Policy and Legislation for the 2015 Remedy, Stella Humphries, who is the 2015 Remedy Programme Stakeholder Manager, and Catherine Murray, who is the Training and Engagement Manager for MyCSP, who are the Scheme Administrator. As mentioned, we will try and answer as many questions as you raise today. But one thing I would add, there may be a couple of questions we are unable to answer due to legislation as it takes its course. Trust me, we want to provide you with the answers to every single question you raise, but our hands are tied as legislation takes its course and becomes into being. One other thing that we will concentrate on is the most upvoted questions that have been posed. So just before you raise a question, have a look in the questions that have already been asked to see if your question has already been there, and just click on the thumb icon to upvote it. So just before we jump into the video, I did say there was going to be a poll, so a little bit of audience participation. So please, could you answer our first polling question, which is, do you understand how the 2015 Remedy will affect you? And I'll just pause there for 1 second whilst you provide your answers. I think that's enough time for you to have answered. So without further ado, please sit back, relax. If you've got a drink, please go and grab a drink. If you've not, then just hold on, because the video for the 2015 Remedy update will start now.
Welcome to the 2015 Remedy. This video is the second in a series of videos which are being created to keep you updated, informed and supported throughout the Remedy process. The first video can be found on the 2015 Remedy section of the Civil Service Pensions website and provides great information on how 2015 Remedy came about, who will be impacted, the decision to implement an underpin, and what to expect. As you can imagine, there are a lot of details we are working through, as well as developing plans and processes. To keep up to date, the 2015 Remedy section on the Civil Service Pensions website is where you will find all the latest news, information and FAQs. This is regularly reviewed and updated and should be your first point of call for information. We can see on the timeline that the next milestone is on the 31st of March 2022. If you are one of the few members who are currently still in Classic, Classic Plus, Premium or Nuvos, you will be moved to the Alpha scheme automatically on the 1st of April 2022. You do not need to do anything, and be reassured that the move to Alpha on the 1st of April 2022 has no impact on the pension you have built up already. The Alpha scheme pays you a pension based on a proportion of your pensionable earnings. It also has a high accrual rate. As well as providing you with a pension, the Alpha scheme also provides a number of benefits, such as the opportunity to exchange some of your pension for a tax-free lump sum, ill health benefits should you become too ill to work, a lump sum if you die in service, paid to whoever you have nominated, a pension for your spouse, civil partner or nominated partner in the event of death in service. Any dependent children can also receive a pension in the event of death in service. More information on the Alpha scheme can be found on the Civil Service Pensions website. The following information is for those impacted members who plan to retire after April 2022. By the 1st of October 2023, the underpin calculation will be introduced for those retiring from this date. This means you will be provided with two estimates as to whether you would like your benefits calculated in your legacy scheme or Alpha for the remedy period April 2015 to March 2022. Remember, more information on why the remedy period exists can be found in the first video. From 2024, annual benefit statements will provide your pension benefits under both the scenarios from the remedy period. The following information is for impacted members who have taken retirement benefits since April 2015. We will be reaching out to those impacted members who have already taken their benefits after the underpin is introduced. These include members who may have retired on ill health, partially retired, or members' families who have received death benefits. The 2015 Remedy Programme is there to make sure that you have the support, tools, information and guidance to help you make the right choice for you. We will be issuing regular updates via the website, as well as creating future videos. We will guide you every step of the way through the process, making sure you know exactly what you need to do and when you need to do it. You do not need to do anything, but if you wish to contact us, email contactcentre@mycsp.co.uk or phone 0300 123 6666.
Really hope you enjoyed and found that video useful, and it's provided you with a good understanding of the 2015 remedy, and it's actually got your brains whirring. I've already seen a lot of questions coming through, so that's great, and I hope people who have got a question, please raise it or upvote the questions that have been put live. Just before we get into the question and answer session, I have one more polling question that I would like your response to today, which is, will you be looking for support and guidance in making your decision when asked to do so? And it's just a yes or no question or response to that question. Thank you very much. Just to reiterate one final point before I start with the questions, is that there may be some questions we are unable to answer, like I mentioned before, just due to legislation. So we will provide you with a brief around what the expectation is, but it is very much in legislation where we may not be able to provide a full and detailed response. So let's get the ball rolling. So first individual I would like to bring in is Stella. And the question, first of all, Stella, is when a member is asked to decide under remedy of how they want their pension to be treated, how will this be actually communicated to him? Will there be an update to the communications that we send out?
Thanks, Andy. Afternoon, everyone. Well, hopefully that video you saw clarified a few areas. And just to reiterate, that video will be going on the Civil Service Pensions website under the 2015 remedy section. So yes, we realise that this is quite a complex area and there's a lot of areas that you need to take into consideration. So first of all, I would point you to the remedy section on the website. Here already there's a lot of frequently asked questions which are constantly updated. There's links to the consultation response, as well as a lot of other communications that will be tailored towards you, such as videos for individuals that might have an added pension or those members that are protected. Going forward, you should see a lot more communications being stepped up. We're going to be issuing a members newsletter and really keep you up to date with what's going on. As mentioned, there's a lot of legislative changes to get through, a lot of operational issues and changes. I know probably a lot of you have questions on, about looking at your figures and making kind of the decision when it comes to retirement. So next year, 2022, we should have an illustrator available, and this will be a tool really, so you could get general information and perhaps see some of the differences to do with the different schemes, legacy and alpha. And then 2023, we should have a fully functioning modeler that will appear on the portal. And this is really, so you'll be able to see exactly what you'll be likely to get in alpha or your legacy scheme for that remedy period. We will keep you up to date, and the website is constantly being updated. So yeah, that is your first port of call. Thanks, Andy.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Stella. Catherine, over to you. How can I find out if I'm affected by the 2015 remedy?
Thanks, Andy. Hi again, everyone. So to be affected by the 2015 remedy, you had to be a member or eligible to be a member of a public sector pension scheme on the 31st of March 2012, and then to have continued to be a member or eligible to be a member on or beyond the 1st of April 2015. So you need to meet that criteria to be impacted by remedy. So you just need to think back to the dates of service that you've had and be sure that you're in the civil service or perhaps some other public sector employment to make sure that you were eligible to be a member of the scheme at that time. If you've got any doubts, there is more information available on this in the place that we're going to mention quite a lot today, the 2015 remedy section of the Civil Service Pension Scheme website. But be looking at those key dates, 31st of March 2012 and the 1st of April 2015. That's what should be guiding you to know whether you're going to be impacted or not. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Ian, next question is for you. I left the main Alpha pension scheme as a result of the 2015 changes to Classic. If returning to Classic is an option for active members, can I rejoin?
So I think there's a few different bits in this answer, so I'm going to explain a few different areas. So if you left Classic because you didn't want to go into Alpha, there will be a process by which, and this isn't something we've yet developed, but there will be a process by which, as part of the remedy, you can potentially appeal and say, I want to be put back into Classic for the period of 2015 to 2022. There will be some other factors involved in this as well as sort of repayment of contributions, things like that, but that will be something that will be publicised on the website at a later date. It's just worth reiterating that all members will be in Alpha active service from 1st of April 2022. So anybody who is affected by this will only be in Classic up to 31st of March 2022. But as I say, there will be communication about people who decided to opt out because they didn't want to go into Alpha, but that's not something we can really share yet.
Thank you, Ian. Stella, back to you. And this is around the tools. This question's come through a fair few times, and this one particularly has been upvoted a lot. And it was, will the modeler be updated to include the remedy option?
Thanks, Andy. Yes. So behind the scenes, we're working very hard at the moment. And yes, we're actually working on a kind of a brand new modeler for the 2015 remedy. And as mentioned, we're hoping this should be available in 2023. And some of you might think, gosh, well, hang on, I could do with that now. You know, 2023 is a long time away. There's so much we need to work through, and as mentioned, there's the legislative changes, a lot of internal policy that we need to go through and processes. So that's why it will be taking its time. So yes, that will be available, and as mentioned, you will then be able to kind of have a play with this tool and see exactly what your benefits would be likely to be under Alpha or your legacy scheme, such as Classic Plots, Novus, or Premium.
One of the things I would reiterate is the modeler is being looked at and is part of the complete package to support our members. From a personal point of view, it is a tool that I am a massive fan of, as it helps our members, i.e. you, actually effectively plan for your retirement. And that is something from a scheme perspective that we are extremely keen on. You need the tools to be able to do that. As we mentioned, we are working through and developing a complete new modeler to not only calculate what your pension is likely to be, but also include the remedy options and what you would potentially have under each scenario, as well as a few other ideas we have as well. The next question I'm going to come to is for yourself, Catherine. And this is around individuals who have their pension in payment already or are about to have their pension put into payment. Is how would they be impacted? So if an individual has, for example, partially retired, what would the 2015 remedy mean for them?
Thanks, Andy. So, I mean, everyone who's in the eligible criteria that I answered in the last question, those who are in service on the 31st of March 2012 and continue to be a member or eligible to be a member on the 1st of April 2015 are going to be impacted by the 2015 remedy. But some of the members who are impacted will have already retired or are going to have retired before everything is implemented. And the deadline that we have to implement everything and for all the legislation to be in place is the 1st of October 2023. So it will likely be the case that there will still be members who have already retired and it's been processed as things stand at the moment, and members who are still going to retire with things as they stand at the moment. For those members, they'll be given a retrospective choice. So once everything is in place and we're able to give them that choice to choose the alternative legacy scheme for the remedy period between 2015 and 2022, then they will be offered that option. And then if there are any changes to the benefits, of course, those will be backdated to that point. So if you are planning to retire, you know, don't let the remedy decision stop you in the fact that it's not in place yet, because you will still absolutely get that option when everything's in place and we're able to offer it to you. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Yeah, really good answer. Thank you. Ian, over to you. This has been asked a few times. This one specifically is centered around a thing or an element called EEPA, but also there's been a number of questions about added pension, things like that. And members are wondering how they would be impacted by this if they're already purchasing added pension, especially if they started to buy it whilst being employed in Alpha.
Thanks, Andy. So I'll cover added pension first. This is something, again, apologies, because we're we do use this answer a few times. It's something we are still working through, and we'll communicate to members who are moving from PCSPS, so moving from the legacy schemes like Classic into Alpha from 1st of April 2022, and we'll be contacting you in good time to tell you what's happening with added pension, and then communicating to the membership as a whole about what added pension looks like past 1st of April 2022. But you don't need to do anything until, well, you don't need to do anything at the moment, and just wait for any communications. With EPA, which is effective pension age, which allows you to pay an amount to reduce the age at which you can take some of your pension, that again is being looked at, because what is happening as part of the remedy is members are being moved back into the legacy scheme, so Classic Plus and so forth, for the period 2015 to 2022. So anyone who bought EPA is for Alpha for that period is no longer in Alpha, so we're just looking at how that will be dealt with. EPA is a lot rarer and very few members have that, so we'll be communicating with those members separately about how we're doing that, because we're still working with employers who've also paid contributions for EPA. So again, I apologise for not being able to give a final answer on that, but that is something we're working very hard on in the background.
Thank you very much, Ian. I hope that helps everyone. I know from I'm very keen to understand how individuals impacted by, especially the added pension change, just from a purely selfish point of view, because I am one of those individuals who has added pension. One of the questions that come through is for you, Stella, and welcome back. Fingers crossed we don't lose you again. And this is around it's around the communication side of things. Do we know, or when do we expect the annual benefit statement, which is issued to members, to be updated to incorporate the 2015 remedy?
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, that's technology for you. I disappeared, but I'm back now. So we're looking at August 2024 for the annual benefit statements to be updated, and yeah, there's a lot of work to get through before then. So your annual benefit statement at this stage will show benefits accrued during the remedy period, which is the 1st of April 2015 to the 31st of March 2022. So this will show benefits for this period, and it will show benefits in your legacy scheme, such as Classic, Classic Plus, Nuvos Premium, and the single scheme, which is Alpha. So that there'll be those figures. So we're looking then, just to clarify, August 2024, and it will be your choice to choose which benefits you know that you want. Please don't feel that you're on your own. We will guide you as the 2015 programme remedy team every step of the way. There will be support, there will be tools to help you make that choice. Yeah, just to clarify then, August 2024, you should see some changes on your annual benefit statement. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you very much, Stella. Catherine, going to come back to you for this next question, and it's centered around individuals who used to be one of our legacy schemes, especially the final salary schemes, and how would they be impacted if and when they come to retire. And the question purely says is, if the final salary pension is based on salary at retirement, or is it the best 12 months from the last 3 years when the scheme last contributed, i.e. 2015 or 2022? So it's basically, if an individual was in Classic and are looking to retire now, is how do we determine what their final pensionable pay is?
Okay, thanks, Andy. So this is a question that we see quite a lot in a lot of the pension seminars that we deliver to members day in, day out at the moment. And the answer is that the final salary link is in place as long as you remain in service. So it might be that currently your Classic service ended in 2015, but as a result of the remedy, it might end up running until 2022. But if you stay in service and still, say, I'll just pick a number out of the year 2035, and you're going to be in Alpha until that time, then we will still be looking at your salary in 2035 for that service that you had in your final salary scheme. So that means if you get promoted further down the line, it could be a significantly higher final salary figure that's going to go into that pension calculation. So just because you've left the scheme doesn't mean you lose out on that link to your salary going forward into the future. And for Classic members, it will be the best of the last 3 years of service. If anyone is a member of Classic Plus or Premium, it's the best of the last 13 years that goes into that final salary calculation. So it works differently between the different schemes. But just to confirm, the final salary link is in place as long as you remain in service, irrespective of which of the schemes you're a member at the end of your service. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you, Catherine. Ian, I'm going to come back to you, your good self. This question has been posed a few times and upvoted as well, obviously under different scenarios. It's this individual as I was in the teacher's pension scheme between 2003 and 2018. So I know I will be affected by McLeod for the teacher's pension scheme, but I was also in the NHS pension scheme between 2019 and 2021 and joined CPS Alpha in 2021. I didn't transfer my TPS or NHS pension. Will I be affected by the McLeod judgment for my CSP pension?
Thanks, Andy. So there will be some members who have different periods of service in different public sector schemes, but are still eligible for the remedy under both. So what we'll do, and not to comment on this case in particular, but more generally, we will work with other public sector schemes to make sure that members who've got different pots of eligible service across different schemes get the relevant documentation with the remedy choice, so they're not missing out. I'm a bit wary of commenting on the specific one just in case I've missed any details, so I'd rather make that general comment. But again, if you are eligible for the remedy under each of the different pension schemes, you will be contacted.
Thank you very much, Ian. The 2015 remedy and the McLeod it's not just the civil service who are impacted, it is the whole of the public sector pension scheme. So as you say, teachers, NHS, things like that. It is something that we, as public sector schemes, we are and do work together to understand how people are working to try and get best practice, things like that. Next question I'm going to come to, and apologies for my slight delay, I'm in a little bit of a muck about with some of the questions, is I'm going to come to Catherine, if that's all right. Is I want to bump up my pension with a further payment this year. Not sure how I do this and which of my two pensions, Classic or Alpha, I can add to.
All right, thanks, Andy. So if you're interested in buying added pension, which is what it sounds like, that's where you're buying an extra amount of pension that will be payable to you every year when you retire. And you can only do that in the scheme that you are currently contributing to. So whether it's Classic or Alpha will depend on which of the schemes it is you're contributing to currently. If you fell into that protected member category where you've remained in the Classic pension scheme so far and you won't move over to Alpha until the 1st of April 2022, if you're going to add a payment to your pension at the moment, it would be to the Classic scheme. If you're going to make that payment from the 1st of April 2022 onwards, then you would only be able to buy added pension in Alpha. If you're already a member of Alpha, then it would be a case of Alpha would be the pension you are buying now. It's also worth noting that there are some restrictions in place in terms of when you can make payments for added pension. So if you want to make monthly deductions or monthly contributions from your salary to buy added pension, those contributions have to start on the 1st of April. So from the 1st of April 2022 next year, everyone will be in Alpha. So the only option will be to buy added pension in Alpha. But if you're looking to make a lump sum payment and you want to do that now, if you are still a Classic member, you could buy added pension in Classic. But if you're already in Alpha, that lump sum will be buying you added pension in Alpha. Lots of useful information on added pension can be found on the scheme website. That includes the added pension calculators, which you can find, which will give you an indication of the cost of your contribution and what it will buy you in additional pension in the scheme that you are a member of now. Back to you, Andy.
Cheers, Catherine. And I didn't interrupt you this time. So positive steps. Stella, next question for you is, and this is around the pension portal, very hot topic at this moment in time. And the question is, will there be anything on the portal to help me make my choice?
Thanks, Andy. So as you're aware at the moment, we're not in a position to provide individual member illustrations on the 2015 remedy as yet. On the portal going forward, as mentioned, we will have an illustrator next year. This will be a kind of a bit more of a basic tool, but it will show you perhaps the differences between the schemes. And then going forward, 2023 time, we will have this retirement modeler for the 2015 remedy. This is when you'll be able to find exactly what this will mean for you and see really figures on your legacy schemes and your alpha schemes, and what it would be likely to, what you'll be likely to get for the 2015 remedy period. I want to say, in addition to this, this is just kind of one tool and one form of support that we're offering you. Really looking at kind of the wider picture. We'll be making similar videos to what you've seen today, but actually tailored to individual members, such as if they've got added pension, if they're kind of in the protected or tapered group. So there'll be the videos. We're looking to do a few more live at lunches, kind of bespoke purely to the 2015 remedy, and question and answers such as we're doing today, updating the FAQs. So really, yeah, keep looking at the website, because any of these updates on the modelers, the illustrators, the portals will be all put there first, as well as we work very closely with your employers as well. So, they'll be kind of signposting you as well to information as well as the website. So please don't feel you're on your own. We'll guide you every step of the way. We will tell you what to do and when you need to do it. But hopefully that gives some clarification what will appear on the portal. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you very much, Stella. Ian's just dropped me a message and he wants to add something to a previous question that was responded to. Ian, would you like to come in?
Thanks, Andy. I just wanted to clarify, because a number of members on this call may have added pension legacy contracts, so ones they'd taken out when you were in Classic, Classic Plus and so forth. We are currently working through what will happen to those after 1st of April 2022, so that will be part of the communication. So again, I just wanted to clarify that for members who may be unsure on that.
Thank you very much, Ian. I'm going to stick with you for the next question, if that's all right. And this is in relation to an individual who chose to go into partnership in September 2019, as they had to leave the Classic. How will this work for me? So I think this is around individuals who have made a decision, so they would not be moved into Alpha, i.e. so they opted to switch to partnership instead.
So as mentioned on a previous, on an answer to a previous question, we will be looking at a process by which members who've done something like leaving Classic, leaving Alpha because they didn't want to be in a particular pension scheme, can apply to us to say, I want to be reinstated for the remedy period, which is 2015 to 2022, because I made my decision due to X. What we don't yet know is what that process will look like and what decisions will need to be made by the member before they can be readmitted. So it may be, for example, if you left the scheme fully for 3 years, well, you owe 3 years in member contributions. So there would be an element of you need to pay back 3 years member contributions before you can be readmitted. But again, all that will be communicated and there will be a clear process by which you can apply. So you don't need to do anything at the moment.
Thank you very much, Ian. Catherine, next question to you, and it's a really good question, actually. Really short, simple, a little bit like me. Will you be explaining what the 2015 remedy is? So is there a basic understanding of what the 2015 remedy is and what it actually means?
Yep, no problem. So sorry if that's not been made clear so far what the 2015 remedy is, but I'll just take it back to the very beginning, just to give a hopefully clear explanation of what it means. So in 2015, in the civil service pension scheme, we introduced the Alpha pension scheme. And a similar thing happened in all public sector pension schemes. There was a move away from final salary schemes where benefits were likely payable at age 60 or 65 to schemes like Alpha that are career average schemes where your benefits are linked to your state pension age. And when the schemes were introduced, members were treated differently based on their age. So some members who were closer to retirement age were allowed to retain membership of their old schemes and not move into Alpha. And some members who were at the younger end of the spectrum moved immediately into Alpha. And then when there were some people in the middle as well who got to stay in their old scheme for a little bit longer, but at some point in the future, they did move across and join Alpha. Now, there are legal challenges to that. And in the courts, it's been found to be discriminatory. They've said that members can't be treated differently on the basis of their age. So the 2015 remedy is the project that's in place to rectify that discrimination. And what's come out of the remedy so far is that, first of all, we're going to address the discrimination by all members, regardless of their age and their previous status, being moved into Alpha from the 1st of April 2022. And then the benefits that have been accrued in what we're calling the remedy period, which is from the 1st of April 2015 to the 31st of March 2022. All members will have the choice to decide, do you want those pension benefits to be in the new Alpha scheme, or would you rather have them in your legacy scheme? And everyone would be given that choice when they retire to decide which option they want to go for. And the terminology that's being used to describe that is the deferred choice underpin, or the DCU. So the 2015 remedy is there to address the discrimination that's been identified in the courts, which is making changes to some members to the pension scheme they're going to be a member of in the future, and also giving that choice for the benefits accrued between the 1st of April 2015 and the 31st of March 2022 for those who met the criteria that we talked about earlier, where you were a member or eligible to be a member of a public sector pension scheme on the 31st of March 2012 and continued to be a member on or after the 1st of April 2015. So hopefully that explains to you what the 2015 remedy actually is and how members will be impacted by it. Back to you, Andy.
Thanks very much, Catherine. That was a clear and concise explanation of what the 2015 remedy is. And thank you for giving me some time to look through all the questions that have been raised. Ian, I'm going to come back to you with this one. And it's a topic I'm actually a massive fan of, not because of the actual topic, but I think it's one of the best parts of the scheme, and it's around ill health retirement. And this individual is 54 with 35 years service. If I ill health retire before next April, can I get classic terms immediately or have to wait for legislation to go through? Also, does lower Alpha equate to classic ill health criteria? So there's two questions there. Is if the individual is going through an ill health retirement, how would they be treated with this? And what is the criteria? Are you able to explain what the criteria for ill health retirement is?
Thanks, Andy. So I'll take the second question first about the criteria. So there are two tiers in Alpha, upper and lower. Each have their own criteria by which they're assessed. Classic only has one tier, which sits somewhere in the middle of the two, is best to say. So there are different criteria for both. Now, currently, you can only get ill health retirement under the scheme you're currently in. So if you're in, but based on the age of the member mentioned in the question, it's likely that you're in Alpha, therefore you'd be assessed under Alpha. And then when we've got the relevant legislation in place, we'd look back at what you would have got had you been assessed under both Alpha and Classic. That's assuming you're, successful. Even if you're not successful, we'd still look at whether you would have got it under Classic but not Alpha, or vice versa. So we are looking at what we can do for the ill health retirement group and whether there's anything we can bring forward, because we recognise for members going through this is an immediate thing. This is not something you put off for a few years till you retire. So we're trying to look at what we can do ahead of the main body, but as yet we can't communicate anything about that.
Thank you very much, Ian. Yeah, ill health is one of those things that we are keeping a close eye on, because we obviously understand this is a very emotive subject in the pensions world. Catherine, good question. It's about the the individual says subscriptions, I think they must mean the contributions. If the individual opts to stay in Classic for the remedy period, will there be a refund of the contributions paid for the remedy period?
Thanks, Andy. This is one of the most popular questions that we get asked in our sessions all the time. And I think there's quite a lot of misunderstanding out there from scheme members. So it's really important to say, first of all, that the contributions that you pay for your pension towards all of our pension schemes, that's Classic, Classic Plus, Premium, Nuvos, and Alpha, they're exactly the same. Members pay the same in all schemes based on their pensionable earnings. The only scheme that has a different rate of contributions is our partnership defined contribution scheme. So all members are paying the same regardless of which scheme they're a member of. So that means that for most people, there's not going to be any kind of contribution refund due to you for the remedy period if you opt to switch back to the scheme you're a member of before. Where I think quite a lot of the confusion comes from is from the fact that Classic has an element to it which can be refundable on retirement to scheme members. So when Classic was first introduced all the way back in 1972, it was a non-contributory pension scheme. So no one initially made any contributions, but contributions started to be paid by men in the 1970s and by women in the late 1980s at 1.5%, and those contributions were to provide pension benefits in the event of your death to any dependents. If a Classic member on retirement is unmarried, so they're single or they're perhaps divorced or widowed, then they can be entitled to a refund of some or all of those contributions depending on their circumstances. So there are some scenarios where some contributions will be refundable, but there does seem to be this big misunderstanding out there where members think they're paying higher contributions for being in Alpha than they are for being in Classic or one of the other schemes. And that's absolutely not the case. And it is absolutely 100% probably the main question we get asked day in, day out on our training and engagement team. So I'm really pleased that someone's asked it today, because it's really important to try and get that message out there. Contribution rates are the same regardless of the scheme that you're a member of. So hopefully that answers the question. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you very much, Catherine. It is a very common question. So thank you very much. Stella, I'm going to come to you, and I can confirm you are still there, even though your camera's just switched off. If I retire in 2022, I know this question has been asked a couple of times, well, I think it's been asked a number of times, not voted a number of times. I think it's good to reiterate, is if I retire in 2022, how will this be managed for me? So basically, before the remedy work comes into place, what will happen to those members who retire and either claim their pension or resign and get a preserved award? How would they be treated?
Thanks, Andy. So the deferred choice underpin, it won't be available until October 2023. So this means that if you retire before this date, you receive the benefits that you have built up to date without the remedy choice. However, you will receive a choice at a later date. From October 2023, all active members that will submit a new retirement application will be given a choice of benefits under the 2015 remedy. So just to confirm, if you retire before October 2023, you will just receive the benefits you've built up before this date, but you will receive a choice at a later date. If I can signpost you as well to the website, I know on the frequently asked questions, there's quite a lot of questions regarding, you know, I'm due to retire soon. What does this mean for me? So there are a lot of questions and answers as well on that. Is that okay, Andy?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Stella. Ian, over to you. And apologies, Ian, I'm going to come to you about a tax question. Everyone loves a little bit of tax. Hi, could you explain how the remedy will work with annual allowance? I have paid annual allowance charge, which I don't think I would have incurred had I remained in Classic throughout, and presumably after the remedy has been applied.
Sure, thanks, Andy. So just for those who don't know, so annual allowance is a pensions tax charge which can occur if you build up over a certain amount of pension every year. So what the HMRC do is they look at what you had at the start of the year and what you had at the end. So it's quite common for people to breach an annual allowance if they suddenly get promoted and get a big pay increase or things like that. There's other people who will be earning over a certain amount who will be hit by annual allowance. Now, when you come to retire, assuming you are retiring after the implementation of the DCU, the underpin, in October 23, or if you've retired already, you'll be given an illustration of what your benefits would look like under both options, whether you go from PCSPS, so the legacy schemes like Classic, or whether you go from Alpha. That will include any tax charges you've either paid or would pay, or potentially would pay by picking the other option. So if you know, for argument's sake, if you incurred your annual allowance charge when you move to Alpha and have to pay it several years in Alpha, and then you decide to go back to Classic, and that wouldn't have led to an annual allowance charge, we will ensure that you haven't financially lost out as a result of paying the annual allowance charge. So we'll do it in such a way that you're going to end up sort of cash neutral. So if you paid £5,000, we'll make sure you either get £5,000 in compensation or your pension's adjusted a particular way in order to do that. So ultimately, if you choose the option where you're not paying the annual allowance charge, then that you'll get some sort of compensation or refund as a result. But that's still, sorry, Andy, just to add, that's still in the infancy. We're still working through a lot of the how that will look in practice and what tax legislation is needed.
Thank you very much, Ian. And being a bit of a pensions geek like me, I'm sure you're looking forward to that piece of legislation coming through so we can decipher it. Thank you very much. Catherine, and this is around a bit more around general pensions, which I think is really useful for everyone to remember that bit. Is it possible to transfer in a private pension pot into the Alpha scheme? If yes, how do I find out how it would impact the monthly amount received before making a decision to transfer it into a DB scheme?
Okay, thanks, Andy. Yeah, it is slightly off topic, but nonetheless, we can still give you an answer to the question. So it can be possible to transfer a defined contribution pension into Alpha. However, you can only do that within your first 12 months of joining the scheme. So presumably, because you're on a session about the 2015 remedy, it's very likely that you've been in the scheme for longer than 12 months. Therefore, you will have missed that window of opportunity. But if there is someone on the call where that does apply, then if you're within your first 12 months, you can apply to the scheme administrator, MyCSP, and let them know that you've got a pension that you're interested in transferring in. What they will then do is they'll approach your previous scheme and get a transfer value, and they will work out, if it's a compatible scheme, how much additional annual Alpha pension that would buy you. And you can have a look at that quotation, and once you've got those figures, you can decide whether you want to proceed with the transfer or not. So you're not under any obligation to transfer once you've got a quotation. But if you hadn't made that application to transfer within your first 12 months of joining the Civil Service Pension Scheme, then unfortunately that's not something that's going to be available to you any longer. Hopefully that's not necessarily the answer you wanted, but answers your question nonetheless. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Transfers in are a time limited option for members, so please look out for that, especially if you have any new joiners to your team. The next question, and I know we have spoken about this before, but it has been asked several times and voted several times, but it's around partial retirement, and I think it's more around that reiteration of people who are going to be claiming their pension before retirement. I know we've just been answered by Stella, but Ian, could you provide a response to how people who are in the process of retirement or have retired, how will they be impacted?
Certainly. So if you have, I can see the question, I've already partially retired in 2018, will I be owed money? So if we use this as our example, so you will have retired either under Alpha or you would have partially retired either under Alpha or Classic. So when you receive your remedy choice, which will be, oh, do I stick with what I retired under or switch to the other scheme? There will be illustrations of what that looks like. So what the pension is, what things like the death benefits are, spousal benefits, things like that. You will then make your choice. Now, if your choice is to stick with what you retired under, you wouldn't be owed any money. If But if you decide to choose the other scheme, you may be owed money, or you may in fact owe the scheme money, depending on what you pick. So for example, and I'm not talking about the person who asked the question, but just a completely made up example, the illustration might show that when you retired, you received £20,000 a year pension, or partially retired. Now, actually, your illustration shows that the other option would only pay you £18,000, but the spousal benefits are better, and there's other aspects to it. So you might say, well, I don't mind having a drop in pension because I like these other benefits. In that case, you would then owe the scheme money because you're choosing the lower pension option. So it really will be completely member dependent.
Thank you very much, Ian. Catherine, I'm going to come back to you because you kindly responded about the transferring out, and this individual is on about doing it the other way around. So they actually want to transfer their pension outside of the civil service. Are members able to do that?
Thanks, Andy. So in a lot of cases, it's not necessarily possible to transfer your civil service pension out to another pension fund. So there are some limitations on being able to transfer your civil service pension, which is a government-backed pension scheme, out to a private pension scheme. So in a lot of cases, it's not necessarily possible. It's often possible to transfer your benefits to maybe another occupational pension scheme. So if you leave the civil service and go on to work elsewhere, then that's more likely to be an option that's available to you, but it will depend on the specifics of that pension scheme. If you're talking about just transferring everything you've built up to a private pension, for example, then that's something that no, isn't an option for you, unfortunately. But anything like that you might be interested in, absolutely worth getting in touch with the scheme administrator and my CSP. You can find all the contact details on the contact us page of the Civil Service Pension Scheme website. So phone numbers and email addresses are all on there for you. And they can explore whether a transfer is possible, and they're looking at the specifics of what you're looking to in terms of whether it's possible. But in a lot of cases, not usually the case, unless you're someone who's leaving with less than 2 years of service, where in that scenario, you haven't built up enough qualifying service to actually have a pension at retirement. You've got more flexibility in terms of where you can transfer your pension benefits to. Hopefully that's the answer that you needed. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Ian, just conscious of time, last few questions to go through. Ian, one for you. When one is divorced, can the ex-wife or ex-husband still be allowed to have your pension once you are no longer alive?
Thank you. So we did have a few questions on this at the previous remedy session, so I'll pick it up in general and comment on the remedy element specifically too. So the first answer is it depends. So depending on the divorce settlement, you may either have a situation where the ex-spouse, so either the ex-wife or ex-husband, has a completely new pension record and receives that pension on their own. So it doesn't matter whether the other person dies, carries on living and so forth. There are slightly different rules for some of the older divorce settlements where it's paid as a portion of the pension. So the spouse or the ex-spouse who's getting the pension through divorce is more linked to that member, but it really will depend. On the remedy side, one of the things we'll need to do, and we're looking at the moment, is how the remedy impacts divorce, where for example, settlement's already happened, the member's taken a particular pension, the ex-spouse has taken a particular pension, and then the choice comes. So again, that will all be communicated to members. Thank
you very much, Ian. Really hope it helps the individual who raised that question and the individuals who voted it. I think we have time for one more question, and this was around, where is it? I think this has been asked a fair few times. I'm going to come back to you, Ian, because I know this question has been asked before, but I just want to strengthen this. It's been upvoted a number of times, and I know it was asked before, is around what remedy means for members who opted out because they didn't want to move into Alpha and switch to IE partnership, or opted out the scheme completely.
Thanks, Andy. So this is the opt-out. This is the process we've referred to on the call by which members who made a decision to opt out of the scheme will have the chance to apply to be readmitted to the scheme. We've not worked out what that process looks like yet or when it will come out, but once we do, it will be on the website, it will be in communication to members, and there'll be a clear process to say, this is what you need to do to be considered to be put back in. And then if you are successful, meet all the criteria, you'll then be treated as if you were in the scheme for the remedy period.
Thank you very much, Ian. I think that is where we will hold off now with the questions that have been raised, and say thank you very much, you three guys, for responding to as many questions as we have today. Just to wrap things up, I want to say, first of all, thank you very much for being with us today. There are a couple of points I just want to reiterate and go over as a bit of a takeaway. I think I always get overexcited when I say or hear the phrase takeaway, especially around lunchtime and when my stomach is rumbling, because I instantly think of a kebab or Subway or any other fast food outlet. And the main points I would like you to take away and think about and consider and to reiterate in your minds is that the pension that you've accrued is safe. You will be given the option and you will see what is the best choice for you. If you leave or retire or resign before you have been given the option, you will still get that option provided to you, more than likely after probably around from October 23, something like that, to look out for, but you will be contacted. The communications, for example, like the annual benefit statement and the tools with the modeler, are being developed and enhanced to incorporate the remedy. So you will be able to see and view how you will be impacted. And the one final point I wanted to add as a takeaway point is website. Everything that we do, everything that we update in relation to the 2015 remedy will be published on the website. We do have dedicated pages in relation to the 2015 remedy. So please keep your eye out on there. Just for you guys' information purposes, thank you very much for taking the time to respond to the polls. The first one was, do you understand the 2015 remedy and how it will affect you? Yeah, 6% said yes, a strong understanding. 59% said a slight, and 35% said no. Thank you again. And the second one was, will you be looking for support and guidance in making your decision when asked to do so? With a resounding 94% saying yes and 6% saying no. Thank you very much for taking the time to respond to those during today's session. Just before you go and grab a bite to eat, we will be sending a post-event survey out. Please respond. Your feedback is invaluable as it allows us to develop these sessions going forward. Good, bad, indifferent, feedback is a gift, and it's something that we take forward and utilize very keenly. With that being said, thank you very much for today. Hope you have a great rest of the day. If you are around tomorrow, we have another session around retirements. So if you are going to attend that, see you tomorrow. If you're not, I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care, everybody.